To welcome everybody to the October 5th, 2023 Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. Roll call, please. Here. Are there any conflict of interest statements?
No.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting of September 29th, 2023.
Motion to approve those minutes.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jake, there's some, there's somebody talking we can hear.
It's your echo.
What's me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Is there anything we can do about that or no?
Say something again.
Hello? Better. Okay. Bid openings, I see none. Matters from other department heads or their representatives. Anybody? Okay, moving on to correspondence. Letter A, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting $143,126.77 of CIB funding to be allocated for the NICD invoice number 5, accommodate new downtown station grade correction submitted for approval.
Yeah, that's echoes very unnerving.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll get used to it.
Yeah. We have an agreement with the Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District to make adjustments to accommodate the downtown train station. This is the first of the invoices that relate directly to the grade change that's needed to make a constant slope approach to where the station's going to be. And so I'd ask for your approval. It was approved by CIB on Monday night, and ask for your approval, please.
Motion to approve the funding allocation as submitted.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, letter B, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting $50,000 of CIB funding to be allocated for general geotechnical engineering services and corresponding agreement with advanced engineering services submitted for approval.
This is a regular contract we have with a geotechnical engineering firm that's based in Hammond. We had our meeting Monday night with the Capital Improvement Board, and they approved the funding allocation. I ask for your approval of both that and the agreement for professional services, please.
Motion to approve the funding allocation and the agreement as submitted.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Letter C, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting $90,500 of CIB funding to be allocated for the Kennedy Avenue reconstruction, 164th Place to 169th Street, and corresponding supplemental agreement with Lockmuller Group submitted for approval.
The project, it's clear that this project has gone on a lot longer than anticipated. That requires our engineer to be out there for a longer period of time. I've reviewed this supplemental request and make recommendation that we approve it, and the funding allocation was approved Monday night at the Capital Improvement Board.
Motion to approve the funding allocation and the supplemental agreement as submitted.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter D, correspondence received from Nees Engineering Incorporated recommending the quotes for the alley fence project located to the northwest of 150th Street in Columbia be awarded to H3 Concrete Incorporated, who had the most responsive and responsible quote in the amount of $17,965.
We were petitioned by the property owner, La Hacienda Azteca, to close the alley. We've done so. Now we just want to clean up, make sure it looks okay. The funding allocation for this project is in transition right now. Councilman Torres' council gaming is expected to fund this, so it's making its way through City Hall now. We've reviewed Nice's recommendation. We'd ask that you approve that, and you'll see a funding allocation in the next week.
Motion to approve Mr. Button's request as submitted.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Letter E, correspondence received from Gary Up Construction requesting a partial lane closure under the pedestrian bridge on Calumet Avenue, south of River Drive, on October 10th and 11th, 2023, with the backup of October 12th, 2023. The intent is to close the center lane daily and reopen at 4:30 each day.
We're setting the giant signs on the new pedestrian bridge those days, and we just need a weather day in case we get bad weather, but we're hoping to do that. I reviewed the request by Gary Up and recommend the Board of Works approval.
Motion to approve the partial lane closure as submitted.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Letter F, correspondence received from William Short, Chief of Police, requesting officers Andy Lornick and Gregory Flores receive evidence technician specialty pay as of September 29th, 2023.
Motion to approve Chief Short's request.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter number 8, matters from board members. You guys have anything? Okay, before we go on to new business, I'm going to skip down to number 10, old business, letter A, status for 7235 Calumet Avenue.
So, Mr. Peterson indicated he needed to get somewhere, so I wanted to get him up and down. I appreciate the board. So again, as I believe last time we were here, Mr. Golding, last couple times, Mr. Golding was here on behalf of Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson represents the purchaser of the property, right, in which there's still litigation going on. However, as Mr. Golding reported, all of the residential folks have been removed. If you remember, this is, you remember the property, right?
Yep.
4 of them. And that we had indicated that we wanted to make sure that they started on the commercial rehab. But that because of litigation, I think we were giving him a little more time to report back. So I'll let Mr. Peterson update them.
Mr. President, Board, thank
Morning.
you. Mr. Smith, thank you for that introduction. I'm Jonathan Peterson. I'm the attorney for Norma Herrera. She is the land contract purchaser of this property. It is, as Mr. Smith reported, in litigation, and I have been in consultation with the attorney, Carly Brandenburg, who represents the seller, the current titular owner of the property. And I think we're heading towards a mediated resolution. We're in the process of seeing if we can establish a mediation date with Attorney Michael Tolberg, and I would expect we get a result out of that. So I'm hoping we could set this over for another 90 days, and I'm very hopeful and optimistic that by that time we'll get this resolved, and then we'll be on a path towards addressing any other concerns that the city might have.
Mr. Peterson, could I just ask real quick, on behalf of the city, can you confirm that it's still the situation where there are no residential tenants at that property at this time?
I can confirm that there are no residential occupants in the property at this time.
That was our major concern, obviously, so if he wants 90 days, I think we can give him that, tell you, okay, good, I'm fine with 90 days.
January 4th or 11th, either one of those sound good?
I'll check my calendar. January 11th would work.
January 11th is good?
Very
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Motion to set this matter for status for January 11th, 2024.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, moving back then to number 9, new business. Letter A, disposal authorizations received from the Hammond Police Department, submitted for approval.
Motion to approve the disposal authorizations.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter B, unsafe building demolition lien for 6720 Ontario and 6812 Idaho Avenue, submitted for approval to record.
Good morning to the board again.
Good morning.
These are, as you all know, the board passes on demolition orders, then we do bids, and then the work is actually performed. So these are the demolition liens. We've attached for the board's record invoices showing that the work has been completed. These are actually signed by the law department, but I did want them to be made part of the record and the board to approve them based upon the work done that's been presented via photographs of the demolitions and the invoices that have been presented to us by the inspections department.
Okay.
Motion to approve as submitted.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter C, findings in order regarding gas depot company located at 3350 Calumet Avenue.
As the board knows, this was before the board last week on an exception hearing to the fueling station ordinance, and the board said that it would take the matter under advisement. The city's filed for proposed findings. I don't believe the board received any proposed findings from the fueling station, but I think the board has the findings before them for their consideration.
No action, Kevin, or we just,
The board has an obligation to, under the ordinance, to file the findings in order within 10 days of the hearing. So if the findings in order are appropriate, then the board can approve them and make them the findings in order of the board.
okay, so the no action right now.
You're going to review those?
We're going to review the findings, yes. Okay, letter D, right-of-way permits received from engineering submitted for approval.
Good morning. We have one right-of-way permit, and that is for Chicago Avenue, a lane restriction for Bishop Knoll. Exciting project for Bishop Knoll. They're putting a new football field in, a new softball field, a new track, and a new stadium. So they're just tying into the sewer on Chicago, 2-day limited traffic, one lane. So I would recommend approval.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Motion to approve the right-of-way permit.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter E, garage sale permit submitted for approval. This is 416, 165th. What was that? Does anybody remember that address on 165th that we were having? Is it 416?
No, that was the odd side.
It's the odd
That's even
side.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Motion to approve the garage sale permits.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter F, demolition hearings, 1305 171st Street.
Yes, so we have 7 demolition hearings today. I would note for the record that on behalf of the Enforcement Authority, the Inspections Department, Mr. Kearney, all these addresses have been noticed via certified mail, regular mail, publication in the Times pursuant to statute, and posting on the property, kind of that neon posting that we do. So I would indicate for the record that I believe a reasonable attempt has been made and request the board to make that finding as well, that a reasonable attempt has been made for service. So as we go through these, I don't have to keep repeating myself about service. I can just report that to the board. On 1305 171st Street, I know that Mr. Berger is here on behalf of US Bank N.A., who holds the mortgage. He and I had a discussion beforehand. The owner's listed as a Richard Cooley. It's a vacant home. The screens are on the ground. There's overgrowth. There was a marking of uninhabitable by the Inspections Department due to a gas leak in August of this year. And the owner have allegedly been passed away since at least 2022. We would request the order be entered, given the condition of the property. But of course, Mr. Berger is here on behalf of the bank.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Good morning.
Yeah, I represent US Bank. They have the first lien on this property. They just recently learned that both of the owners had passed away. The loan actually was current, and that's why the bank had not been able to take any action on this property. So they asked me to come here today to just see what was going on with this property and seek information from the city if possible. As far as the property, I assume that the city's going to probably vote to demolish the property. My question, I guess, for the city, if the city's able to answer, if they do affirm that order to demolish the property, would there be anything that the bank could do in the meantime from now until the demolition day to rectify any of those violations? Is that something on the plate?
Yeah. So if, our recommendation today is always going to be to enter the order.
Right.
Unless there's extenuating circumstances, but between now and bid is probably 8 weeks. And, of course, the bank will get notice of that again. And we'll notice you kind of on a carbon copy. But you can pay, the bank can pay for the inspection downstairs at the rate of $150. That'll get the inspection process going, which of course will lead to the rehab process. So the bank would like to do that, they can do that downstairs, and then that's noted in the file. If getting inspections been requested, I don't know if it's today.
So we're gonna enter the demolition order, but do we need a status of any kind to meet with him again? No? Okay.
Do we have a time frame after the bids are taken that they would demolish the property? Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Motion to approve the demo order.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter B, 6946 Arizona.
6946 Arizona, the owner is listed as Sundancer Properties LLC. I know Mr. Rose is here. Of immediate concern, I just want to mention regarding this property, it appears to be vacant for some time. There's been neighbor complaints. There's no water service since '08, and the garage is falling apart. And here's a copy kind of the thing. Chris, are you here?
You just stepped out.
And Chris, I just showed them the situation as it relates to the garage and the fence there and how bad it is. Do you want to say anything to the board or let them know what's going on?
Just pulled a $40,000 building permit and a $3,000 electrical permit. We had the crew over at New Houses on Michigan and Calumet. We're gonna immediately put people on that house. The outside should look like new, maybe in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. We'll start with the aesthetics first on the outside and work into the inside. Not a problem. We have 100 houses in here.
So Kelly, how do you want to handle this with the inspection and ability to pull permits and stuff?
Morning.
I have full confidence in Mr. Rhodes' ability to rehab houses. I think if we keep him on a time schedule that, and inspections are called, I don't think we'll have any problem getting this house rehabbed and back on the occupied list.
So what I was in the order, instead of sending it over to the bid, we'll set the status for maybe Chris helping us in 45 days, 60 days status, and we'll permit for another bid that way. Mr. Rhodes is, as usual, getting things done on the property.
Is December 7th okay for the status date?
Fine with me. Hopefully we'll have it up for sale by then and sell it to
Okay.
Motion to enter the demo order and set the matter for status for December 7th, 2023.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter C, 4344 Clark Avenue, the garage.
I've had some email correspondence with the owner, Mr. Costeras. Here he is. It appears that he would like to self-demo the property. There have been, let me just get to my notes real quick here. Regarding this property, he has defaulted in court on June 23rd from the inspections department. So I'm not sure if the inspector's here. Is Chris here?
No, he's off.
Not here today? Okay. So there is an issue going on in court that Mr. Costeras needs to take care of. The garage is in pretty poor shape. I think you'd admit that. Is that the condition currently, Mr. Costeras?
Well, as of right now, yeah, I'm a new tenant there. Mr. Costeras.
I'm sorry.
My name's Chris Tuttle.
Tuttle is your last name? Okay.
We just started, I started staying about 2 months ago, and I've been doing what I can to bring everything up to where it should be. Last tenant said we didn't take care of nothing.
So what kind of time frame do you think it's going to take you to demo the garage?
I'm not actually sure. I wasn't even aware that the garage was gonna be demoed.
You're not using it, right?
No. There are, the last people that were there, they filled in a bunch of cardboard from 4th of July. So we've been trying to get what we can out of there, to see what can be done with it. But I mean, if they're gonna move forward with them,
You're not using it?
No.
Okay, so obviously, Mr. Castro's here, he's the inspector for that issue.
Myself and Mr. Pajak have both had issues with Mr. Costeras' properties. We've informed him that garage related. We've informed him numerous times that if he is gonna self-demo, he needs to get a licensed contractor to come in and take down the properties. The property in theory, he actually repaired, but this one, he said he's gonna self-demo, but he keeps trying to bring in people that are not licensed to demolish the building.
So I'd like to request the order be entered. Obviously, we'll add Mr. Tuttle to the distribution list, and we'll see what happens.
Do they have an obligation if they self-demo before that date, before we get to it, that they have to notify us? Okay, gotcha. Okay, okay. Okay, okay.
Motion to enter the demo order.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Okay, letter D, 4208 Holman Avenue.
The owner is listed as a Deborah Corella as trustee of the Mulasong Living Trust. The inspections have reported problems for a while on this property. The owner has told them that he, I'm not sure if he's the trustee or any ownership of the trust, only stays in it once a while. No water or electricity have been for over a year. Full of garbage and overgrown. There was a default judgment in court. I think in July of '23 for $2,500. I don't know if the inspector has anything else to add. Nothing else? No communication. We'd request the order presented based upon the condition of the property.
Okay.
Motion to enter the order.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Moving on to letter E, 5661 Soul Avenue.
5661 Soul. The owner is listed as a Darnell Shamble Inc. LLC. I know that person, at least a member of that corporation, has reached out to me. Hi. However, what's your name? Solomon. And what's your... Okay, I'm sorry. It sounds like somebody's online for Shamble. We'll get to you in just 1 second. Okay, so could you state your name again, sir? Solomon. Okay. Okay, Ms. Battle, if you could just hold on 1 second while we get the people that are here first, and we'll let you speak.
Okay, can you call my name? Because I'm coming from background, but I just hear Darnell Campbell, but I I'm sorry.
Absolutely. We'll call your name before we address you. Absolutely. Just hold on 1 second.
Mr. Smith, can we get Solomon's last name? What's Solomon's last name? What is it? Javantes? Cervantes, okay. Okay.
What is your interest in the property?
He sent me over here to be in this year.
Right, do you work for him? Do you own the property? You work with him, okay.
So he's willing to get the stuff done, and he needs to, he's not in town right now. He will approve any service to get the stuff done in the garage and the house.
So if I can just present the board with some photos, and then I'm going to turn it over and let Ms. Battle address the board. But for now, let me just show the board the photos of the property. Property appears to be a two-story structure. The paint is peeling off the backside. There are broken and open windows to the elements, along with several, it looks like the garage door is damaged. And there's a concern for the safety of the neighborhood, several neighborhood complaints about the condition of the property. So the city's position is we would request that the demolition order be entered as presented, and of course, based on the condition of the property. But I'll turn it over to Ms. Battle now, who appears to be, and maybe she could identify herself and whether she's an owner or a representative or attorney for the property.
Ms. Battle, go ahead.
Okay, so what I think there's some of that with this, but what Darnell is asking is for a renovation done. Probably an extension for a year, because we're about to get into the winter. So he's asking that we can have a year to keep this house up and whole, especially the outside.
So, Mr. Kearney? So Mr. Kearney has indicated, Ms. Battle, I hope you can hear me. The city's position is that we want to enter the order for demolition. If Mr. Shamble would like to request an inspection, he can go down to the bottom floor of City Hall, and Mr. Cervantes, you can let him know this too, pay for the inspection. That will begin the rehab process. So he should do that as soon as possible. The next thing will happen before this board will be a notice of bid for the demolitions. That won't happen for 6 to 8 weeks, and you'll get notice of that again. So please make sure, if you are interested in rehabbing the property, that you pay for the inspection on the ground floor of City Hall, and that will at least begin the process, and we'll have notice of that.
Can I repeat that? I pay for that inspection. And somewhere
Of City Hall, Miss Battle. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and after he pays for the inspection, that shows that on the date that he started the process and move forward from there.
The answer is yes, right? Yes, yes, ma'am. You'll sign, you'll get the inspection, and then they'll give you a certain amount of time to get it completed, and they like to see progress going along the line. So it won't, you can't get the inspection and sign an agreement and then not do anything for a year, if that's what you're asking. You're gonna have to show progress.
Yes, show progress on the property.
Okay, so I,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I will let him know that is the first step, go to City Hall, pay for the inspection, and start making progress.
So, I guess for the record, I would request that the board enter the order, notwithstanding the request of a year. And it sounds like we've given both Ms. Battle and Mr. Cervantes information as to what they should do to keep the process going, but of course, we have to keep the demolition process going in case we never hear from Ms. Battle, Mr. Shamble, or Mr. Cervantes again. So I'd request the order be entered as presented, and obviously we'll move the process along, and hopefully we'll hear that they have an inspection by the time we go up for bid.
Right, okay.
Motion,
And when is it, when do you want that inspection get by?
That'll be scheduled once you pay the inspection fee.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cervantes.
motion to enter the demo order as submitted.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter F, 1101 Truman.
All right,
I'm sorry, is that for, I'm sorry.
No, Miss Battle. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
So that,
Okay, we're gonna do this about 1101 Truman. This is a property owned by the 20th Eisenbrandt Trust. It's in pretty bad shape. Here's a picture.
This property used to be managed by Mr. Hohenberger, and when he passed away, the family that took over his operations had no contact information for this company. The building's been vacant now for 2 years, boarded up multiple times, and nobody's contacted us about it. We've been cutting and cleaning also for 2 years on the property.
I'd request the demolition order be entered as presented. No one appears on behalf of the owner.
Motion to enter the demo order for 1101 Truman.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter G, 1037 Ames.
1037 Ames, I believe Ms. Walker is here. Ms. Tony Walker, she's one of the heirs, one of the owners on the property, and she called me and she's indicated that she's been having no luck getting her sister's siblings, I think, I don't know if it was your sister and brother, sisters, to kind of pitch in and help. Unfortunately, the property is boarded up with overgrowth and some dilapidated stairs. The property's been vacant, appears for some time and blighted. It's the city's request that the demolition order be entered. I know that Ms. Walker was concerned about a lien being entered on the property, and I explained to her that there is a potential that if a lien is put on the property, and her name's on the property, that it would end up on other property that she owns in the county. But I'll let her go ahead and indicate to the board her position.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
I'm here, like you said, to represent 1037 Ames Street in Hammond. I'm having problems with my two other sisters and one of my deceased brother's children as far as helping me try to keep this up. And I'm on a one income monthly, and I can't do it by myself. And I'm in the position right now where I know my father worked hard for his property and everything, but as far as I'm concerned, because I can't do it anymore. I did pay to have grass and the bushes trimmed last month, and nobody wants to help with that. But if there's any way, if the city wants the property, okay, as far as I'm concerned, the city can take the property. You know, we're willing to turn it over. I'm willing to turn it over to them.
So I think what I
We are interested. Is she the sole owner of the residence? She's not, okay. And her siblings, okay. I got you, okay, okay.
Motion to enter the order for 1037 Ames.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Moving on to number 10, old business. We've already completed letter A. Letter B, status for 2314 Indianapolis Boulevard. Morning, Mr.
The contractor earlier this week, I think there's I don't see the owner here. I think there's been some financial issues with the owner. Just making sure that the money's there for the next portion of the project. If we could just set this over for 2 weeks status, so we can see where we are, and if the financial situation isn't resolved, then we can just move forward.
The 26th, okay?
Fine with me.
Okay.
Motion to set 2314 Indianapolis Boulevard for status on October 26, 2023.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are we ready to go into number 11? Okay, number 11, fueling station exception hearings. Letter A, we're going to start off with Kennedy Sitco, 7305 Kennedy Avenue. Good morning.
Hey, it's Hammond. I'm representing Kennedy Sitco,
Okay.
7305.
In what?
K-A-Y-N-D.
ED.
The first name?
Both.
K-A-Y-E-D, and last name H-A-M-A-D.
H-A-M-A-D.
Okay, so you're representing the gas station in what capacity? You're attorney, you an owner, employee, you're a manager? Okay. Okay, I want to read something before we get started. I read this before every hearing. Good morning. The next matter before the board is a request for an exception to Section F of Ordinance 9605, brought by petitioner Kennedy Sitco, 7305 Kennedy Avenue. Petitioner has requested that the fueling station be excluded from the requirement within the city of Hammond that fueling stations be closed from midnight to 5 a.m. I would like to first determine whether or not proper notice has been given to the neighboring property owners by the petitioner. The requirement is that the petitioner give notice of today's hearing to all properties located within 300 feet of the petitioner's property line. And Linda, do we get that? If anyone is present, if anybody besides the petitioner to speak for or against the petitioner's request for an exception, is there anybody that would like to speak on behalf of the gas station? You're going to be the only one speaking first? Okay, sir. Is anybody that got notice here? Okay. As the petitioner, you have the ability to now present to the board your rationale as to why you believe your fueling station should be allowed the exception. As you know, there are several factors in the ordinance that the board will consider and weigh in making the determination, and I would ask you to be aware of those factors and to present your argument and evidence today with those factors in mind. Do you have any evidence, not testimony, that you would like to give the board before we get into testimony?
I mean, most of the items that the city asked for is, it's either stuff that already, to be discussed like verbally, or I could, like,
No,
pictures and stuff like that.
your own pictures, or are you going to go off what the city provided?
I have my own pictures on my phone.
Okay, can you provide those to the city then and to the board also, please?
One of the evidence is like part of that program that
He's got to mark it. You got to mark it. Thank you. Oh, the fuses. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Exhibit A is a receipt that the Fusus camera system was purchased for the station, for the gas station. Yes, and we know that it was installed already, correct?
installed, and I actually had account with the city of Hammond before, but this is the device so they could see the camera.
Okay, okay. So at this time, do you have any testimony that you would like to give in reference to this hearing today?
I was present at the station when the inspector came in, and I seen him taking the tape of several things. So I went after him just to correct any information that was missed. So in here, he was some kind of somebody marked.
So I think, yeah, and I want you to explain it to them, so I think what we want to do is, if you have those pictures and you'd like to submit those, we would like you to email those. I'll give you the address, you don't have to print it off. So if you just email those pictures, because I think it'll be important for your case, I want you to be able to email those to the board. Just make sure, I'll just tell both guys, once we have a photo, we'll mark those as proof exhibit B. And as long as he submits those to the board by tomorrow, Friday, I'll know that you gotta get him the email address by tomorrow.
Do the pictures refute something that the city, the pictures? Gotcha, yeah.
One of the things that Mr. Novak has indicated is that there was graffiti on some of the pumps, and it looks like that's been removed.
I gotcha.
I'll let him get into that as he goes over the presentation, and of course, Mr. Novak will bring that up.
Okay, then go ahead, go ahead, sir.
So as far as my case, I think I fulfilled all the requirements that the city, and that letter that the city mailed to us, as far as why, or the things that they require from the stations in order to open up. So one of the things is the program that fuses, it's on. Second is we have enough lighting to make the place, it's all LED lighting, brand new lighting. The station is bright enough. Third, as far as security, we have a bulletproof glass for the cashiers and all that. We have door buzzers on both doors for the cashier area and for the main door for security, extra security. We are also, one of the things, are we in residential or in commercial? We are on the main street off the highway, so that's one of the things also that you guys want. We've been in business for over 10 years, and we haven't had any issues with the city or the police. Our license is up to date. We never defaulted on anything, or we never or did not renew it, or canceled, or it was canceled or revoked. And I'm also asking for this, not just for financial reason, which is a little bit part of that. It's also for security reasons, which I had the story from the old owner. He said that he had, for a period of time, that's over 10 years ago, he had closed, and during that, whatever year or so, he had his store, that same store, broken into the glass, somebody broke into the glass. So that's what I'm afraid of also, that we can have a lot of problems with the break-in and maybe some kind of damage to the pumps and stuff like that. That's part of, to alleviate that problem, being open, actually secured the station, and probably a little bit financial reasons for us too, and maybe employment for one of the people that we're gonna lose, one of the cashiers. Besides that, I mean, I don't see anything else. I don't see anything else that the city asked for that we did not fulfill. I see all the points that they marked, and I went through them, and everything is good, and I don't see anything missing. So it's up, I like to see what the city has comment on when they looked at the station or the inspector or anything like that. So if anything, I'm willing to fix and get it up to code within very short time.
Okay, so do you have any other testimony at this point? You'll get the chance to ask the city questions after they present their case, and you'll get time for a closing argument also. But right now, are you done with your testimony? Done, any evidence that you didn't provide that you have? We'll get, yes. Anything else?
No.
Okay, the city have any questions of the, okay.
Sir, how much of your business is application to midnight and 5 a.m., percentage-wise?
Maybe 15%.
Okay. And have you and your ownership group owned the property for the last 10 years?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you're right on the highway, but by my estimation, it's actually, you're at 173rd, so it's probably a good, maybe 3 blocks, is that fair?
Within 2 blocks.
Okay.
It's not yet. It's within that 7 block.
And you are on, if I remember right, you're on the southwest corner of that, kitty corner from the park, you're across from the park, kitty corner.
So
South,
I'm on the
east.
Southeast.
East, yeah.
Yeah.
Southeast across the street from the park.
Oh, yeah, southeast, would be like south of the park, yes.
What's the nearest residence to you, would you say? Is it above the alley?
It's, yeah, exactly. And it's not right after, behind us, it's a little bit, south of us, like behind the station, a little bit south, because right behind us, there's a plaza, like, stores.
Yeah, like that little,
Yeah.
Strip mall.
Strip mall, yeah.
have you ever had any contact with any residents complaining to you about either excess noise, lighting, problems with the station between midnight and 5?
No, not to me at all, and probably if they would have a problem, they would have came to either the police or the city before they come to me. But to me, no, we haven't had any.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Okay. If you have no further evidence, I will now let the city present their case regarding the exception. Mr. Smith, do you have any evidence or testimony you would like to present?
Thank you to the board.
Just right off the side, right over here.
As the board is aware, the city, of course, looks at the factors in the ordinance. The first factor, and just so the board knows, I have exhibits, I'll have copies for Mr. Hammond, and then we also have Mr. Novak and Sergeant Godey here to testify. The first item I have is incidents of criminal acts and police calls over the last 5 years with emphasis on the last 24 months. I'm going to mark this as Exhibit 1. Summary list that it appears that there have been since 2019 167 calls to this location. Of course, those vary from things like lockout. There are some issues with man with gun. Some are accidents. Some are extra patrols. I would note in the last 24 months there have been about 20 this year, 20 calls out. Maybe about almost a 25, 28. And then last year, just looking, about the same, about 30 calls out last year. There have not been any homicides at this location, but I would like to at least present that to the board as the call to satisfy the first factor.
Okay.
And allow the board to be aware of the calls at that location. Next, I'd like to call Sergeant Godey and have him be sworn, if you could, so that he can talk about fuses, security, and other issues that he may have noticed when he was there. So,
Sergeant Godey, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you will give this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
could you please state your name, sir?
Christopher Godey,
And your position with the Hammond Police Department?
Sergeant with the Hammond Police Department.
And as part of your duties as sergeant, are you involved heavily with technology and the camera systems around the city?
Yes.
All right, Sergeant Godey, have you had the opportunity to visit the Citgo at 173rd and Kennedy?
Yes, Mr. Hamed and I are familiar. We've had video for several investigations even prior to Fusus. He's always been responsive and helpful with us.
Okay, could you give the board a summary kind of your either satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the camera system at 173rd and Calumet and whether or not it's part of Fusus?
Kennedy, just to correct you, sir. That's okay. Yeah, no problem.
Yes, Mr. Hamed and I talked yesterday. He bought his own core device. It's installed. We have 2 views inside, 2 views outside.
said is correct. He has very good LED lighting. It's very bright outside, and as I said, we've used his video before in several different investigations. We can always get a hold of him. He's prompt to answer and let us download whatever we need. Even some of these recent calls, the man with the gun was a domestic where someone was following someone to the pump, and he and your brother owns the property across the street.
Yeah.
His brother owns the property across the street, and he even introduced us to his brother to further get some more video from across the street.
On the whole, are you satisfied with the gas station security presence and situation that has taken?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions of accessibility, Mr. Gordon.
Mr. Hammond, do you have any questions of Sergeant Godey? Okay, thank you, Sergeant Godey.
Moving on then, on to the other factors, we've hit number one, we've hit number two, and I think we've hit number three. As to whether it's in a residential or commercial area, I think Mr. Hammond testified, I would agree with that testimony, that it does sit on a main street. However, there are some residences, although not right against the property, it's more kind of down the alley.
Right.
And it is, obviously, we have no testimony to rebut Mr. Hammond's testimony that he has not had trouble with neighbors and no one has shown up, even though he's given notice. Next matter is whether or not the fueling station would be considered to be easily accessible by interstate travelers. I think that's a little bit of a toss-up. When I think of easily accessible, I think of at least pretty close to the interstate without having to go in. You know, it's kind of like when you're traveling, you don't really, I think usually I'm not comfortable, at least like, oh, I'm going to go a couple blocks in, I look for something right off the interstate. So, but he's not far off, as he mentioned, it's a couple blocks, and as Sergeant Godey mentioned, it is well lit. Now, factor 6 is whether or not there are other city ordinance violations, or whether or not it is currently in violation of any city ordinance, placing emphasis on those that could impact safety. I'd like to ask Tom Novak to come up and be sworn, and I would give a copy of his report to the board.
Mr. Novak, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you will give this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Mr. Novak, could you please state your name
Thomas Novak, NOVAK.
and your position with the city?
I am the Assistant City Planner with the City Planning Department.
And did you have occasion to take the photos that are attached to Exhibit 2 and draft the report that is on the first page of Exhibit 2?
Yes, those are my photos. I went by yesterday afternoon.
All right, and are the bullet points the summary of what you discovered to be the violations on the property?
Yes, they are, and I'd also like to note I did not include the graffiti that he mentioned he removed on this report, so everything on there should be current as far as I know.
Okay, and not to go through each one, but I'd like to note for the board that we have presented photos that also indicate the violations. Of most importance, I guess, when safety, because we're supposed to focus, the ordinance asks the city and the board to focus on those violations that are at least safety related. Those are the most important. We always talk about signage. They do have some signs that cover 100% of the windows. That's always a security concern from a police perspective because they can't necessarily see what's going on inside. And it's always good to see. I think that's always important. So that is one that we'd like to be corrected immediately. Tom, do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
I mean, just minor things like proper striping of the ADA space, getting a dumpster enclosure. The one dumpster kind of seems to encroach into the alley. And as far as safety, I think it's important that they have a rear address numbers installed on the back, especially because there's a little bit, when you're back there, there's a little bit confusion between what's the rental rack and what's their building back there, so.
And then also things like keeping the fence in good shape. That's good for safety as well. There's been some indications of weeds and lawn gotten over the amount. And being on a main street, of course, it's important, I think, just from a community perspective, to keep your property looking clean because it's just, that's what people see when they're going through the city.
If I may, one thing to add on to that. So they did replace the alley fence, and it is relatively new, but there is a short metal fence in the 173rd Street Public Parkway. Now, that's kind of one that needs to be addressed since it's a little beat up, but they're more than welcome to install professional landscaping and things in that parkway. They just need to come to us for approval before they do that.
I don't have any further questions on Mr. Novak, but I would request this report, Exhibit 2, be made part of the record.
Mr. Hammond, do you have any questions for Mr. Novak?
My question would be, so most of these pictures and what he considers violation is, I mean, we're here to discuss like, if our station is safe enough to open up at night, right? So most of these, and I fixed those, most of the.
Mr. Ahmed, I just want to correct you. That is one of the factors, so I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Okay.
One of those is, when you said the other dumpster, that one does not belong to us. It belongs to, has a.
Direct questions, Mr. Hamed. You'll get a chance to make your closing argument at its time.
Okay, so besides the bushes and stuff like that, do you see anything that, like, do you see anything on the property that causes any alarming or any problem?
Well, just simple things like, get that disposed of, get the bushes disposed of, there's some shelving units, get the shelving units put away inside. There's some oil drums in the back, I don't know what's in them, but get them put away. Okay.
Those are done, the bushes are trimmed, and they were trimmed, but they're just barely sticking out a little bit, so I trimmed them all the way to the end.
I understand that you may need to just get those hauled away and removed, and that you may have trimmed them, they just need to be removed, yeah, I understand.
Any other questions, Mr. Hamed?
May I comment on one thing that,
No, this is a time for questions for Mr. Novak. You're done with Mr. Novak?
no.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Novak. Okay.
Last on our, I think I'm getting toward the end here, thank you. We talked about adequate lighting, it sounds like Sergeant McGody, as to factor 7, indicated that there's adequate lighting. Factor 8, I would, present to the board Exhibit 3, which I received from the Controller's Office, I'll give a copy to Mr. Smith. This is business license, the Controller's Office that their license is valid and that they have never been late on their license. So, last thing I have is Exhibit 4, which I've been presented to by, Mr. Farrell. This is a summary of whether or not there are any citations regarding, I believe it's similar to Mr. Novak. Is there anything additional?
Nick, can you stand up and come over here, please? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Do we need to swear him in? Okay, Nick, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you will give the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Could you please state your name?
Nicholas Farrell,
And your position with the city?
Code Enforcement Commissioner.
Did you have an opportunity to draft what is now known as Exhibit 4?
I did.
Okay, could you please just give a short summary of that for the board?
Absolutely. So basically, for our department records, based on the district inspector's interactions with the property, it's a brief summary of the notices that have been sent to the property owner beginning from 2015 through 2022. There are currently no active citations or warning notices issued to the business operation, although there are some items which have been mentioned in regards to conditions surrounding the property in which the business operator said that he may or may not have taken care of some of them. But I did not foresee a citation being issued for these, most likely would have been noticed. But since 2015, there have been 8 citations and 2 warning notices, none of which have resulted in a default judgment or fines being issued. They normally take care of everything that is outlined, but we would request that they stay on top of it to avoid having to issue it in the first place. No other questions.
Mr. Ahmed, do you have any questions for Mr. Farrell? Okay, thank you, Mr. Farrell.
All right, and it takes us through the factors. I don't know if anybody, you already asked, no one's here from the public.
Nobody's here from the public.
That's the city's presentation on the matter, thank you.
Okay, do the board members have any questions of the city?
No.
And Mr. Smith, you don't have any further evidence? If the city has no further evidence, the petitioner now has the opportunity to present any testimony or evidence and reply, not an argument, just a testimony or evidence and reply what was said. Do you have anything else you'd like to present and reply, Mr. Ahmed? Yes. Sure, if you're gonna.
So all the evidence that I have, mostly pictures of that's what it seems that the problem is, just the pictures of the bushes and stuff, which I'll provide those through the email pictures.
Okay.
By tomorrow, yeah.
Okay,
Maybe later on today, yeah.
Okay, then stand by one, if that's all you have, then stand by 1 second, okay? If not, then I will give both parties a chance to make a closing argument to the board as to why the board should or should not grant the exception. So this is a time for your closing argument, any arguments that you have, but we'd like to keep it 5 minutes or less. Go ahead, Mr. Ahmed.
So my closing argument, listening to the city inspectors and the police, and I do not see or feel this station would have any problems or risks on residents or employees that would make it or must close at night. Most of the things are very minor, and it's been corrected. One of the things that I heard mentioned is this station is not out off the highway. It's about 3 blocks down. No, it's not. It's within 2 blocks. Actually, it's on the corner of the 2nd block, and it has a high rise where it shows the travelers from the highway that there is a station in there. The station before us does not even, so they would see our station before they see the other station. It's not hidden in a corner or in somewhere. It's on the main street, so anybody gets off the highway does not hesitate to go in the neighborhoods. It's right on well lit. Everything is bright. Everything brand new. Actually, we went through the whole construction. I mean, I'm sure the city's seen that, where we changed from a different brand to a brand with everything is brand new. Newer pumps, newer image, and newer even inside, newer LED inside the station. The cashiers do have protective glass. We do not open the door to go and help, so that's safety for the cashiers, what I'm trying to say. The calls that was mentioned here, that we have so many calls, so many pages. If you look into these calls, yes, I mean, I was surprised myself to see that number, but mostly is to protect people. Mostly someone comes and complains. Mostly someone comes and looks suspicious. Isn't our job is to call and notify the police about their suspicion? If I'm not gonna call, who will? So I am here in that station, watching over for safety of other people and our safety too. But none of this ever resulted in injury to us or injury to other people outside. We have not had any, thank God, have not had any problems whatsoever, and he could probably mention that or elaborate on that, of any real safety concerns. It's all, if we see a car that's suspicious, somebody sitting in the car for a long time, we would notify the police about that. If something is like really emergency or something like that. So this 3-page that sounds like, looks like it's, these people keep, calling the police for, it's probably a haven for crime. It's actually calls to protect the residents, and it's notify the police of any suspicion. So I don't know if that's not our job to do that or not, if it's presented as evidence against us. I think this is should be evidence for us, because we are watching over and we're letting the police know of anything happening around the neighborhood, around the station, on the street. If we see an accident, shouldn't we call and notify the police? Some of it is calls for accidents. Some of it is called for someone got locked out, like you mentioned. Someone calls for people who, let's say, slept in the car or passed out in the car. Like a couple of times, I remember someone passed out in the car. and we had 12 police. So, looking at all this stuff, I am willing to work with the city, work with the police, and I've been the manager of the station for the last 10 years almost. Everybody knows me from the city and stuff like that. They know I'm very easy as far as working with them and helping to maintain this property to the best shape I can. Yes, there's a few things here and there. Sometimes someone call about a little tree that's sticking out and take a picture of it and send it to the city. Most of these is not the city noticing it. It's someone from the neighbor, I guess, noticed it and sent it to the police. And he came in and I corrected it at the same time he was there. So most of these are very minor things, and I always correct it in a very short manner. I am willing to work with the city and...
Just start wrapping it up, please.
Yeah, so my final is I am willing to work with the city for anything that is needed and is not, like they think it's not corrected. And I'm hoping that you will take my evidence and take this as satisfactory so we can stay open the way we've been doing for the last 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed.
On behalf of the city, first I just want to say that, as part of our job here is to present the board with the facts. So I disagree with Mr. Ahmed saying that we presented the police calls as evidence against him. It really is just presenting the board with the calls. We've indicated, and Sergeant Godey indicated, even some additional information regarding those calls. So we just want to make sure the board has the information versus not having it. The board can determine whether or not those calls are significant enough. And of course, the city appreciates the fact that property owners do call the police and advise them when there is an issue. That's important. The one thing that I would mention that does cause some concern is it's the first 4 pages of Exhibit 2 on the photos, showing that the windows are completely covered, and including a door being completely covered. I would hope that the board, if it grants the exception, that it would order Mr. Hammond and the board to come into compliance with zoning on that matter immediately. The other matters, I believe, are less of an immediate nature or need, because they don't necessarily address safety directly, but they are important. There's some potholes that I think should be filled, things like that I'm sure over time, if we give him additional time, he'd be able to satisfy those with Mr. Novak. The city doesn't have a position either way regarding whether this property should be open from midnight to 5. Obviously, the ordinance is that gas stations should be closed. It's up to the board to determine whether or not they meet the exception. So I would just leave the board with the evidence the city presented and look forward to its findings.
Okay, thank you for your presentations today. The board will now take this matter under advisement. The board will notify the petitioner, Mr. Ahmed, in writing of its ruling by regular, certified, and electronic mail within 10 days of this hearing. If an exception is granted, it shall be valid for 1 year from the date of the determination and is subject to revocation if any circumstances change. Additionally, you must reapply for the exception annually if it's granted. Just want to make sure you understand that, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you very much for coming in today, too. Okay. Okay, then we're going to move on to letter B, save a stop at 7452 Indianapolis Boulevard. Mr. Smith, do you think it's a good idea if I read the opening again every time? Yeah. Good morning, sir. Hold on one second. Good morning. The next matter before the board is a request for an exception to Section F of Ordinance 9605, brought by the petitioner, Save a Stop. The petitioner, brought by the petitioner, Save a Stop. The petitioner has requested that the fueling station located at 7452 Indianapolis Boulevard be excluded from the requirement within the city of Hammond that fueling stations be closed from midnight to 5 a.m. I would like to first determine whether or not proper notice has been given to the neighboring property owners by the petitioner. The requirement is that the petitioner gave notice of today's hearing to all properties located within 300 feet of the petitioner's property line. And Linda, did we get that? She left. Okay. If anyone is present besides the petitioner to speak for or against the petitioner's request for an exception, can you make yourself known, please? Okay, do you intend to speak, though, at some point? Okay. Then we'll get to you at that time, okay? Uh, As the petitioner, you have the ability to now present to the board your rationale as to why you believe your fueling station should be allowed the exception. As you know, there are several factors in the ordinance that the board will consider and weigh in making their determination, and I would ask you to be aware of those factors and to present your argument and evidence today with those factors in mind. Do you have any evidence, not testimony, that you would like to give to the board before your testimony?
Yes, I do have alarm, 24 hours, if you have any issues.
Okay, do you only have one copy? If you could present that to the city first? Yes. And sir, before you approach the board, can you give us your full name, please?
First name B-A-D-R, last name Abdullah, A-B-D-U-L-L-A.
And are you, can I ask, are you an owner, a manager? You're an owner? Okay, go ahead and approach the table. You can give us that sheet, Mr. Abdul. Thank you very much. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, sorry about that. It is an alarm, for alert alarm. It's an amount of money they paid for coverage, quarterly coverage. Okay. Do you have anything else, Mr. Abdul, evidence-wise, that you want to present?
Call the police to be part of the fuse program.
We'll get to that, but I mean, do you have any other evidence? Pictures, testimony, anything?
We have like a safety box.
Well, okay, you can explain that, okay. Do you have any witnesses you intend to call? We talked about your manager. You intend to call her at some point? Okay. Then go ahead and give your case, please.
I have a gas station at the 7452, and
Can you speak a little louder?
I'm the owner of the gas station of 7452.
Okay.
And I'm willing to open from 12 to 4. And I do have a camera system. I have a safety box for the employee. There's a light all around the place.
Mr. Abdul, I don't know if you can possibly, but you got to go a little bit louder.
I do have like a cameras. I do have a light all over the place.
Are you picking that up, Jake? Mr. Abdul, it's on, yeah.
I do have a cameras everywhere.
That's good, yes.
And the station is fully of light, and we never have any issues with any customers. And I'm willing to have a security arm from 12 to 5 if it's required from the city to stay open. Just everything.
I'm sorry, what did you were willing to what?
To have like a security arm, like
Armed security, okay.
between those hours.
Okay. Do you have any other testimony, Mr. Abdul?
No.
Does the city have any questions for Mr. Abdul?
Like I'm the new owner. I took over like in 2021. The old owner was with them. He's right here. Like before, like when they was closing, they was open from 6 to 11, and was like a lot of issues. Like people broke in. That's why I tried to stay open 24 hours. And since I took over, we never have any issues. But back in the day when he was closing, he having a lot of issues. He was broken in, and you can speak to him if
Mr. Abdul, do you have any proof that those break-ins, or when they happened and how often it happened?
Yes, you can speak to Jim. He's the old owner.
Well, does Mr., well, we'll talk to him. Go ahead and finish.
That's everything.
Okay, so you're done with your testimony? Okay. Does the city have any questions for Mr. Abdul?
Yeah, I have a question for Abdullah. I thought I heard that the would be open midnight before, or are you asking for a full exception for midnight to 5?
Like from 12 to 5.
You want to be open 24 hours?
Yeah, 24 hours.
You mentioned the security system. Do you know the type of cameras you have?
Like the security system is like the camera.
Who makes the cameras? What kind of system is it?
I'm not sure what kind of system.
How many cameras do you have?
I have 2 systems. I have in my phone if you want to see it. connect to my phone?
Well,
I can show it to you guys.
yeah, we'll be able to speak to Sergeant Godey and get his expertise opinion.
Also, like I'm by the highway as well too.
Okay.
Like most of my customers, they come off the highway, not only from the resident.
Okay, but just respond to the city's questions at this point, okay?
So, what about lighting? What kind of lighting do you have at the town?
LED light on the canopy and on the top of the building.
Okay.
The other question I have that's gonna come up in a little bit is that there was an installation of outdoor signs. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, we used to have a sign there from before, like since we took over, and the sign has stopped working. So I tried to fix it, but they say it's too old. I have to. There's no more parts for it. I guess change the screen. That's all I did. It was extra signs from before.
So is it accurate to say that you did not pull a permit or get permission for installation of that new sign from the city?
Like, I didn't have a permit because I thought like only changing the screen. I didn't apply for it. Like I don't put a new sign. It was a sign exists from before. I can change the screen. But if it's required to have a permit, I'm willing to pull up a permit, and I'm willing to turn it off until I get a permit.
So the answer though is that you did not get a permit, correct?
No.
That's all the questions.
Okay, does the board have any questions for Mr. Abdul?
No, no.
This time, okay. And Mr. Abdul, you don't have any additional evidence you'd like to present right now, at this time?
No.
Okay. Yes, do you still wish your manager to speak? Or Mr. Witham, for that matter?
Both.
Okay.
You want to ask him about the
Who wants to be
accident?
first? Okay, come on up, ma'am. Can you give us your name, first of all? What's your last name, Laura? Okay, if you could step up to the mic and raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you will give the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Ebling.
I've been there since he took over. I was there when Jim was there. I used to work up till 11. Now I work the day shift. I come in after our midnight shift, and there's no issues when I get there. We have quite a few of your officers that do live in the area and also patrol the area, and I've talked to them daily, and they've also told us that we are a few stations that do not have any issues, that they're one of our least problematic stations, and our calls that are usually traffic calls that are right there at that light because that light's horrible. But other than that, we don't have any issues. We have lockboxes. We have a lockbox that auto locks as soon as we come to the back. Our LEDs are so freaking bright that you can see them as soon as you come off the expressway. We try our best to do our best with the community and we try to keep everybody safe and happy and content. We have EBT, so if somebody's hungry at night that has EBT, they can come in and get something to eat. We haven't had any issues, and I've been there for almost 6 years, and we've never had any major issues. That's all.
Any questions for Ms. Ebling?
I've never worked an overnight shift. I have kids, and it's too hard for me to work an overnight.
So you don't have any knowledge of you don't have any personal knowledge of what happened overnight there?
No, but I work the morning shift as soon as I come in.
Personal knowledge of what happened overnight?
No.
No further questions.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Ebling?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Witham, do you wish to speak? Good morning, Mr. Witham. Could you give us your full name, please?
My name is Jim Witham.
And if you could please raise your right hand for me. Do you swear that the testimony you will give the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What would you like to add to the hearing today, Mr. Witham?
The only thing I could add is what I said in the council, that station and other stations that we owned before we put in bulletproof glass, those stations were broken into, especially between midnight and 5 in the morning. We had a number of instances. Usually I got to call at 3 or 4 in the morning to come out and clean up the glass, clean up whatever mess was made by people trying to break into registers, trying to break into everything. But we solved that problem. He's kind of the beneficiary of that. We have bulletproof glass on the window where the cashiers are. We put a bulletproof enclosure for the cashiers at night, so they would be safe. The last goofy thing that we did was we had a break-in and was smashing bread, is what it was. So what they did was put a little device on the lock so they couldn't just spin the lock open. It was kind of stupid, but that's what we had to do to stop the break-ins. The last incident, one of the last incidents we had with bulletproof glass, guy tried to break in with a sledgehammer. He wasn't successful. So that eliminated as far as robbery is concerned. But I'm concerned, if you close these places, I'm concerned that you're going to have break-ins and people are going to come in and steal other things. They're going to steal whatever they can, like they are in LA, like they are in Seattle, like they are in Chicago, everywhere around this country. So if you're going to end up, this is my feeling only, but you're going to have additional police monitor these stations when they are closed for exactly that same reason.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Does the city have any questions for Mr. Witham?
Well, we leased it, we never owned it.
Is it accurate that you're in a bus up against a residential area in the rear?
Yes, that's correct.
I don't have a question.
We owned that we leased it for probably over 20 years.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Witham. Okay, if there's no further evidence, I will now let the city present their case regarding the exception. Mr. Smith, do you have any evidence or testimony you would like to present?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and Board. We do have evidence for the board. First and foremost, I'd like to start out just going through the factors and presenting those necessary exhibits. The first is Exhibit 1. It has to do with incidents of criminal acts and police calls over the last 5 years, with emphasis on the last 24 months. I'll present one board. I also have a copy for So we note for the record then that the 2023 calls are approximately 18, and the 2022 calls are probably around 30, a little over, maybe, yeah, right around 30. Most of them, again, as you can see the listing, there's some trespassing, reckless driving, accidents, extra patrols. I don't see anything in here regarding, the most violent that I see is a robbery, and that's 22, line 52. So that raises some concern about a violent act on the property, but outside of that, I'll leave it for the board's consideration. That's Exhibit 1. I would also like to call Sergeant Godey to discuss security and cameras at the property. If you could, and Sergeant Godey's already been sworn, and you have obviously have identified him at the last hearing. So if we could just move to testimony.
Yes, I'm just going to remind everybody that Sergeant Godey was sworn in already.
Sergeant Godey, could you please give the board the following information? First question is, are you satisfied with the situation as it relates to the FUSIS program and the station?
We received an email from the owner maybe 2 days ago. We made arrangements and we installed one of the city's cores there. They have two DVRs. One is a little older than the other. And we went back and forth a little bit while I was there making the installation. The question that has never been asked of me before was, can they later disconnect? So
Did that raise a concern for you?
a little bit. They did end up providing us all the views from one DVR, which is the exterior of the business, and some interior. However, we have no view, with the windows being covered, and there is a camera, but it's on the DVR that they didn't give us. So we have no visibility into the clerk or, the cash or where a burglary would occur. We have no visibility into there because of their multiple DVR situation.
So, do you believe that could be corrected?
They could, yes, they could put that camera onto the other DVR or, provide access to the other DVR, just maybe clean it up and, preferably one DVR for the business with everything on it.
Is that something that the police department would be able to direct or assist them in, not necessarily the setup, but tell them what they need to do?
Sure, we can make recommendations. They obviously have a vendor that they've been using that has installed some of the newer cameras.
And given that this is at 175th and the Boulevard, pretty busy intersection, and right off the highway, do you believe that efficient and good cameras hooked up to the system could benefit the police department?
Yes.
Anything else that you observed when you were at the property that would give you any concern about the safety of the public or the premises being open overnight?
No, like the other gas stations, the window is, this gas station, the window's broken. I believe it should be fixed immediately, but it is that laminated glass, and they have a lot of advertisements on it, so you can't see through there or see through to the clerk. So our only request would be that glass be fixed, and like the other businesses, all the coverings on at least the door glass be removed.
I don't have any questions. I don't have any further questions of Sergeant Gody.
Mr. Abdullah, do you have any questions for Sergeant Gody?
No, I'm willing to do all that, this, all the glass and take all this.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Gody. Oh, Sergeant Gody, can you hold on one second?
Is the camera good quality in there? Because you can't see inside, right?
We can see inside. We cannot see the clerk that is behind the bulletproof glass. So if there were to be something that occurred, like a break-in or a robbery, somehow they gained access to the clerk and maybe held them up, knowing that we were coming, we have no visibility to that midnight clerk as it stands right now. But they
It's not because of the type of camera necessarily, it's because of the lack of hookup to the fuses and the location of the camera?
It's the business's decision that the views that they wanted to provide to us did not include the clerk, where the clerk is at.
But the cameras are of good quality?
They are of good quality. They are working, and it is part of our system right now. But they did ask what they could do to revoke that at a later time, and how they could switch to buy their own core to provide less views. So we're concerned that they may switch to change that.
I do have a question for Mr. Abdullah. Do you have any questions of Sergeant Gody? Can you come up to the mic, please?
Like I have two system cameras.
Yes.
And for inside, I could switch. It's not a hard. Like I can move from the old system, put on the new system, the system they want.
Well, as Sergeant Gody described, if there was a robbery or access was made to the cashier, if we're not able to see that, I don't understand why you're not providing that access.
No, because
it's
like
protecting your employees.
No, I have two systems there, but I'm willing to switch the camera to the system I give to them.
To both systems?
Yeah, if you want both, I could do it. Or if you want any camera he want, I will do it for him. Any cameras they want, like any camera he's looking for, he want it, I will provide it to him.
Okay, but I guess my question to you is why didn't you provide that when he spoke to you the first time?
Because we have two systems there.
I understand that, but if we're willing to give you a box that covers both systems or two boxes, why aren't you saying that it's, why didn't you say it was okay in the first place?
I told him it's okay. Like like before, when I meet a police officer here, he told me like you can give any camera you want to. You don't have to give me all the cameras. That's what I understand. But now, whatever camera he want to, I will give it to him.
Okay.
Disconnect to. No. Because like we do have two systems. One for inside, like for the office, for the.
No,
for
Mr.
the
Abdul,
cashier.
we understand that, but it was weird for you to ask the question about how to disconnect it, because if the exception is granted, you will have to maintain the FUSA system for the year. You can't
Of course.
decide a month later that you want to disconnect it.
No, we will, anything like if something is broken, I have to fix it right away. If something is disconnected.
Okay, so we're clear on that part?
Yes.
Okay.
And any camera he wants to, I'm willing to give it to him. I don't have nothing to hide.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abdul. We do not have anything else. Thank you, Sergeant Godey.
So that takes care of, I believe, number 2. Number 3, we talked about adequate security presence a little bit. Sergeant Godey indicated about his concern about the windows. I'm sure Mr. Novak will get into that. And so I guess as Mr. Abdullah also mentioned, he is willing to hire a security guard if that's the desire of the board to give the exception. You know, the city's always in favor of additional security. So we would have no objection to that. Whether the fueling station's in a residential area versus a commercial industrial area, I would call this a mixed area. I mean, this gas station abuts the houses right to the west of it. I think that's Magoon? It is Magoon. Okay, so right there on the back side. And it's kind of a tight fit there. So I don't think there's obviously any traffic problems from midnight to 5 generally, but it's a little bit of a tight fit on that lot. Next factor is whether it be considered easily accessible by interstate travelers. It sits right at the corner of 175th and the Boulevard, outside of that crazy left turn lane that comes on northbound Boulevard from the highway. I'm assuming it is relatively easily accessible by travelers on the interstate. The next factor is whether or not they have any additional city ordinance violations. Mr. Novak, without going into too much detail for the board, you have presented to the board photos. Could you just touch on any safety concerns you have and the LED sign that you pointed out?
Okay, sure thing. So as we alleged, the main thing is going to be, as far as safety, the main, like I said with the last one, I didn't really notice any address numbers on the front door rear. There was an incident of a graffiti tag on a garbage can, which isn't a good sign, but they can easily remove that. No ADA parking, really no striping for any of the parking spaces on the lot, which could, end up with confusion with people driving around. We did mention not a signage on the windows. I will say, I believe that a number of it was removed after being requested months ago. There is still some signage on there. One could argue it's a little over 25%, but it's close. The big thing is that door, so it's spidered and it's covered in advertising, so if they can get that replaced and then make sure that less than 25% of that door pane is covered, that would be very important because that entrance is right at the clerk. So, I mean, if you can see through that door, you can see what's going on with the clerk and all that. Yes.
That's actually in like the customer area.
Yeah, that's on the trash can. Yes. So, I know they also have a citation out for some holes in the mansard roof along its edge. I'm assuming a truck or something hit it a while ago. So below the price indicator is a digital display screen. We call it electronic message center or a programmable message display in the zoning code. But the rules are, you're supposed to get a permit. I understand he was replacing, he wasn't putting in an entirely new sign, but still a licensed contractor needs to pull that permit. They need to be licensed specifically with the city of Hammond. And then, I did notice that when they installed it, it was a little larger than the last one. If they had installed something that was exactly the same or met so the rule is it can only be up to 1/3 of the sign cabinet that it is a part of. So I'm not sure the square footage. That's why when I sent my citation, I did say, please get us the dimensions so we can make sure it's valid. I mean, if they wish to do that, that's fine by me. Our big thing is making sure that it's been hooked up properly and getting it inspected. Another thing I'd like to mention is that I believe the rule is that it's 10 seconds, a little under 10 seconds for messages. So make sure that it's not flashing like crazy and going off, every second or two. It shouldn't change as often. And one thing I do just want to bring up about lighting in general, I'm not indicating that it's entirely true here at all, but just, I've heard them mention we have new lighting installed. Always make sure the lighting is directed down towards the ground, away from residences, and that the rule along residences is 1-foot candle. So that is an issue that I'm sure will come up again and again at future gas station hearings. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Abdullah, do you have any questions for Mr. Novak?
For the sign, LED sign, it's larger than the old one.
You got to speak loud. There you go.
For the sign, he said it's larger than the old one, LED sign.
Yes.
But the problem, we couldn't find the same as one we have before because it's been there for almost more than 20 years, and we don't even find the part for it. That's why I bring a bigger screen.
That's why I think he's asking you for the square footage of the one you have already, the one that's there.
Okay.
You need to provide that.
so my main point is I just want to be is that if you had a licensed guy come pull a contract, we would have discussed all this beforehand and it would have been, So I understand what you're saying.
The contract.
That you couldn't get the exact same size sign is what you're saying.
Also the contract, when I have a deal with him, we have to pull up a permit. But I said because we get changing, you don't have to.
Mr. Abdullah, we're having a conversation now. Ask direct questions, okay? If you have any questions of Mr. Novak, ask a direct question.
No.
You're good?
We'll talk to him.
Okay, Mr. Novak, thank you.
Next matter I have for the board is business license information, and I do have that for the board. This is Exhibit 3. Give Mr. Abdullah a copy. I can relate to the board, and Exhibit 3 does show that Mr. Abdullah does have a valid business license. However, and I'm going to give you Exhibit 4 at the same time, the issue that we're having with the license is that it appears that he applied for the license in the name of Indy Ham. I'm going to give you a copy of this. This is Exhibit 4. He's trying to renew it under a Safe Stop. The Safe Stop is already being used over on 165th Street. So I know that Mr. Farrell in his report is considerably concerned that he's trying to renew his license in an improper manner instead of renewing it under Indy Ham Business 2 Inc. And he shouldn't be trying to renew it as Save a Stop, because Save a Stop's already in use on 165th Street. So that's the current status of business license. I believe Mr. Farrell is going to request the Controller's Office to take a look at either revoking the business license or at least having a discussion with him to correct this renewal. Is that fair? Okay. So I don't think, Mr. Farrell, do you have anything else to add? We're good. Okay, so. Yep, so as I summarized, there's an issue with the license.
Well, can I ask, he can only use Safe Stop if he owned both locations, correct?
So Save a Stop sounds like it's a DBA, right? And if you have a DBA, you have to do two things. One, file it as an assumed business name on your Secretary of State information, and two, file it with the Recorder's Office. That you file a piece of paper that says we're doing business as this, so that if anybody wants to file suit against you, they know how to get a hold of you. They look up safe, because, you know, the sign says save a stop. It sure as heck doesn't say Indy Ham, whatever it is, right? So that's a way for people to know how to contact you or sue you or whatever the case may be. But he hasn't done that in this instance, and that would have to be corrected. At least the city's position would be to request the board to request him to correct that if he's going to be given an exception.
Okay.
Right.
Since Nick provided that information, I should give Mr. Abdullah a chance to question Nick. Mr. Abdullah, do you have any questions of Nick about the business license?
Like
For the Save Stop is like a DBA, and for the corporation name is Indy. That's
Is that a question? I don't know.
Yeah, are you asking, that's a statement, not a question?
Explain it later.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for him?
Oh, yeah, no, we should.
no.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
So just finalizing then, the board has information regarding the business, about any ordinance violations, about the status of the business license. We talked about lighting. So the city would then rest on the evidence presented, request that exhibits 1 through 4 be made part of the record, and reserve the rest for argument.
Okay, does the board have any questions of the city? No. Mr. Smith, you have no further evidence?
I do not.
If the city has no further evidence, the petitioner now has the opportunity to present any testimony or evidence in reply. Do you have anything else you'd like to present in reply, Mr. Abdul? No. Okay. If not, then I will give both parties a chance to make a closing argument to the board as to why the board should or should not grant the exception. We normally like to keep this at 5 minutes or less. So, Mr. Abdul, do you wish to make a closing argument? Please approach the mic.
I'm willing to work with the city and the police department with anything they want me to do, like take out the sign, provide the cameras for the police, and for the license, I'm willing to go fix it, because my way I was like thinking like it's Safe Stop is like a DBA. It's not like I will fix it, and anything with the city for the sign, I will take it out. I will apply for a permit, and anything they want me to do, I'm willing to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul. The city?
The one thing that concerns the city about this property is the fact that it's close to a residential area. I know that notice was given. We don't see anybody here to remonstrate, so that's noted. As far as the factors go, looks like there was at least one violent act over the last 2 years, the robbery. I am concerned about graffiti being there, especially being so close to the highway. We've heard from other officers at other hearings, like at the council hearings, that there is a concern about either gang presence or gun running, things like that may occur late at night. And so having graffiti there does give me some concern. If the board feels that an exception is warranted in this case, I think we have to keep, number one, a very tight watch on the FUSIS program and make sure that Sergeant Godey and the police department is satisfied with what they're going to do. The board's given a very stern warning to Mr. Abdullah that if he would disconnect it from FUSIS, the board could revoke that exception. I think that's warranted if that occurred. I would ask that they come into compliance with the requests from Mr. from Mr. Novak, in a relatively near-term matter. The broken glass on the door has to be corrected right away. I would request that. If they give an exception, that has to be done immediately, before they can even remain open after November 1st from midnight to 5. And that's kind of where we sit. You have the evidence before you. I appreciate the time of the board.
Okay. Thank you for your presentations today. The board will now take this matter under advisement. The board will notify the petitioner, Mr. Abdullah, in writing of its ruling by regular, certified, and electronic mail within 10 days of this hearing. If an exception is granted, it shall be valid for 1 year from the date of termination, subject to revocation of any circumstances change. Additionally, you must reapply for the exception annually if it's granted. Mr. Abdullah, do you understand that? Okay. Thank you very much for coming in today. Okay, we're going to move on to number 12, rental registration hearings. There's none. Number 13, the meeting's open to the public. Would anybody like to speak? Doesn't look like it. Number 14.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone.